Moving on to some other news, thousands of people gathered for an anti-racism rally this Saturday in Belfast after days of unrest triggered by a horrific stabbing Monday night. This is the third summer in a row that Northern Ireland has been gripped by anti-immigration violence. Over the past two nights, rioters have burnt houses, smashed windows, hurled bricks at police, and marched down streets saying they were there to, quote, get foreigners out. The violence comes at a time of heightened tensions in Britain over crime and immigration, with populist parties saying the country's asylum policy has allowed dangerous men into the country. Let's cross now to Belfast and bring in our correspondent, Hervé Amoric. Hervé, I understand you're right there in Belfast where the marches occurred. Tell us more about today's protests.
Just outside City Hall, and these streets behind me were black with people just half an hour ago. Many people, thousands, came to protest against racist attacks that took place in the last couple of nights. There were the political leaders of all the main political parties, and you had trade unionists as well. One in particular, I thought, took to the stand and spoke of his anger, and that was the head of the chairman of the Fire Brigade Union. He said, "We had people being burnt out of their houses in the 1960s. This is something we do not want to see again over here." And he was speaking particularly since he knows that his members, the firemen, are being attacked as riots take place and as hooligans are setting streets and cars alight and are setting alight as well houses and trying to burn people out of their houses. In fact, earlier, I spoke to a nurse. I spoke to Biji Jose, who is organizing a union of Indian nurses, nurses from Indian background. She said several, almost a dozen of her colleagues were threatened, intimidated on their way to work, and they were told by hooded men that they had to leave their houses or their houses would be burnt. These are the same people working on the front line in hospitals who were clapped during COVID because they were supposed to be saving the country. Now, some want to put them out of Northern Ireland. Some of these nurses and their families even left Northern Ireland because of the threats. They really feel afraid. This is the situation, and you don't want to be, coming from a background which is an ethnic minority background here in Northern Ireland at this moment in time, and live in a Protestant working class area. It's not good.
Now, Hervé, Belfast is no stranger to violence, and they had the decades of the Troubles there. Who's been stirring up this anti-immigrant sentiment this time?
Many riots, you're right. The walls and the areas in Belfast have the memories of 35 years of violence where people really remember, riots and, streets, being burnt at night. But this is not inter-community, cross-community violence, Catholic against Protestant, Republican against Loyalist. This is quite different. It is really those targeted are people coming from ethnic minorities, and those organizing it are not the usual suspects and not the paramilitaries. Police saying that Loyalist paramilitaries, because these happen mostly in Loyalist, working class Protestant areas where, called Loyalist people feel loyal to the British Crown, and the paramilitaries there, which still exist and are still there, were not seen to be organizing these. Police were saying that this was really led by internet groups, both here in the UK, in England, and in the US. So you're talking about a smaller group of people. In fact, we were expecting at this rally today for a small group of people to turn up, and we're expecting some trouble, but only a dozen of them turned out. One was arrested over here. But these are people who happily, it seems to be a smaller group of people, but they intend on causing quite a lot of havoc. And police were criticized for keeping it, not intervening fast enough to protect these members of the community. In fact, it was interesting because one protest holder at this anti-racist march earlier on was wearing a sign saying, you really have no reason to protest. Your concerns are not legitimate. But that's what the sign said. And if you look at the statistics in Northern Ireland, you have 6,000 people who are immigrants over here out of 2 million people. You're talking about an immigration level of about 0.3%. That's extremely small. And ethnic minorities with British passport, you're talking about people who are about 3%. This is a 97% white community. And people, are still happy to push the immigration debate because they feel they're being invaded. So there's something, obviously, that perhaps needs to be debated and talked about, but the statistics certainly do not show that these people should have as much concern as you could expect in the larger community.
Hervé, thank you so much. That's our correspondent in Belfast, Hervé Amoric.